Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Between the Sharks. We have got to build a transmission crossmember. Yes, I'm aware that is not the transmission. This is a relatively simple task that can be grossly overcomplicated. Now, we don't necessarily need to build our own crossmember per se, because if we go to the Speedway website, there are many affordable options that honestly look pretty well built and we're in the neighborhood of $100. The thing is, it's Friday night and I'm not gonna wait for one to show up. But you see, the process in figuring out what you need is about the same for whether you're gonna build it or if you're gonna buy it. Now, there are some prerequisite steps in getting this just right. You got to be at ride height, right? Your suspension needs to be kind of in place, and the weight of your engine and body and stuff needs to be on the frame because your springs do this. That's what they're supposed to do. And it affects stuff. Now, we've got two critical measurements to get this thing kind of worked out. The first one, fortunately for us, is kind of a gimme. We need to be centered, which is equidistant from either frame rail, just a little bit of in the middle. The second measurement is mildly more complicated, significantly more debated, so I'll just tell you how I do it. For a Chevrolet motor, I set it at 3 degrees down. I don't know where I got that information. I'm gonna pretend it's from an extremely reliable source. 3 degrees, what the hell, you say? Well, so I jam my level across my 3 carburetors, put my same little whoop-de-doo on it, and you will notice that we have a bit of a taper, roughly 3 degrees. Now, this is not very scientific because I didn't really level anything that it's sitting on, but it illustrates the point just the same. So the way Chevrolet intakes are milled, if you've got your engine set at 3 degrees down, then you put your intake on it and suddenly your carburetors are magically level. This, gentlemen, is why you cannot use a marine intake on your automotive application, because a marine engine is designed to be much steeper for the propeller pitch for reasons I don't understand. But that's how I've always done it. I haven't had any problems, so we're gonna keep on doing it. To measure 3 degrees down, you've got to choose where you're gonna measure it from. Right now, we do not have an intake on this motor. You can tell because there's no intake. So I've set a level across the front China wall to the back China wall, the casting on the block that looks like the Great Wall of China. Ran a level across it and put an angle finder. We're gonna aim for 3 degrees. Right now, we're like 4.5. So Chevrolet motor mounts have some room for adjustment. We are going to use that to our advantage here. We're gonna keep an eye on this dial, right, chow, while we lift the transmission with this jack. All right, so we snuck it into the neighborhood right around 4 degrees. But you said we needed it at 3 degrees. I know I said I needed it at 3 degrees. So why'd you do it at 4 degrees? Because I can shim up, but I cannot shim down. So now, in simplest terms, we've just got to keep it right there. But where is there anyway, right? So here's how I determine the there, fellas. I got a straight line represented by this board, and yes, I understand. It's a piece of 2x6, so it's only so straight. Good enough for us. We're neither building an F1 car or space rockets for a NASA mission. We've got our transmission mount in place. We'll get a measurement to our little board. This could be the ground for you if it's just on your shop floor. We got 8 1/4. Then, in line with it, because I think I can go straight across, I'm gonna measure to my frame rail in roughly the same spot. I'm seeing 14.5. 14.5 minus 8 1/4, ladies and gentlemen, is arithmetic. So now we know we've got a 6 1/4 inch drop. That's how it'll be referenced if you're ordering one. From the bottom of the frame rail to the bottom of the transmission mount. Right at our transmission mount, which I'm gonna go ahead and call 27.5 to the inside. Bottom of the frame rails are roughly 1.5 inches, so we've got 27.5 plus 2 sets of frame rails. So we're talking about 30.5 inches. All right, gang, we got some cardboard, a marker, combination square. We're just gonna lay it out, kind of, whoo. So that's it. That's our little mock-up plan. We got our frame rails, we've got our drop, and right here at center, we need to build a mount that lines up with the holes on the transmission mount in the car. Coming from here down to here and back up can be any design you want. You can come over and then down and then over and then up and then over. It doesn't have to be symmetrical or anything. Look at some designs on the internet of things that you can buy, because there's saddle mounts and all sorts of things that don't even line up directly, that kind of push forward, K-members, you know. This is the basics, and that's all we need on this car, I think, because we have moved our master cylinder back, so our crossmember is going to come under that rod. The thing that we don't have that will go in here at some point is exhaust. So let's just eyeball where that's kind of trying to go, and we'll keep that in mind, but I'm pretty certain we can work around it. All right, there's the exhaust. It's gonna have to sneak down under the pedal assembly. Did I say this needs to be bolted in yet? Because it needs to be bolted in, because you need to be able to drop your crossmember out to drop your transmission out if that's something that you need to do. And you might need to do it. You may not want to do it, but you might need to do it. Just realize we're gonna have to run some brake lines through here at some point. Problem for future me. So I'm thinking we bolt into the bottom of this rail, go straight down, over, and we may as well make it symmetrical, because we don't really have a reason not to. I'm gonna be using 1x2 box steel. I don't know what wall that is, but I think it's 3/16, and I don't know what gauge that is because I don't remember that stuff. So this is just something I built to hold the Turbo 375 that was attached to the other 283 that used to be in here that I just kind of plopped in. This was to keep it from like falling out. So these transmissions actually share the same mount. So I've got my old center line lined up with my new center line, but if you look out here where it hits the frame, this is built wider, and that means the other transmission sat further back because the frame gets wider, oh, but it's that way as it goes backwards. We're gonna need to knock these things off, trim this down equal amounts from both sides, then we'll put it all back together. Am I here yet? We have a plan. We start with some 3/16 plate. It's gonna come off on the top. We're gonna bolt through our frame rail into this, so that makes it removable straight down. 1x2, come down this way. We're gonna go 45 to our bottom piece that will run along this way, under our transmission. 45 back up, same thing on the other side. We're gonna make it symmetrical because that makes it building efficient, and I don't have any reason not to yet. The 45, I know what you're thinking, that's overdoing it for this channel, and it is, but I realized if I dropped it straight down and just did a 90 here, I'd feel better if it had a gusset, just because this is a decent drop. So by building the 45s in, it's essentially making the gusset, so while we're making it a little more complicated, we're also removing some pieces from the build by having to build. No, it's 1-to-1, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, whatever. You guys, it's early. It's early. I spent more time putting this blade back on this morning than this thing is spent cutting. All right, gang, it's basically like a DIY crossmember kit. Last thing we gotta do is cut the 3/16 plate, drill some holes in it. We're gonna do that in reverse order because it's a lot easier to keep your hands on a big piece of steel versus a little piece of steel. And this is gonna be 2 inches by 2.5 inches when we're done. Now, while I say this is a do-it-yourself crossmember kit, it kind of is, but it's a lot of work if you had to go get this stuff. For me, it's the weekend, it's time to do it, and I happen to have all of this stuff laying around. And if I didn't, buying a crossmember and modifying it as needed would probably be the right thing to do. We're moving the project forward, not necessarily trying to impress people on the internet with our fabrication prowess, but this will do the trick. Let's drill some holes and keep. I'm gonna give this old battle axe another try. I've put this blade back on probably 10 times for, what, 4 cuts? All right, there we go. Now, granted, I did use a bandsaw and a cheap bandsaw and a cheap drill press. Not necessary to do any of this stuff. I could have done it with a hand drill. I could have cut it with a grinder. If the bandsaw had been better, I would have fought the tooling less. But because I got in a tool fighting mood and just slowed down because that's what it took to make it work, because I think I got frustrated that what's the point of having the tool if I can't make it work? So I kept trying to dial it in, and I actually made the last 2 cuts on the bandsaw without putting the blade back on. While I was at it, I was straightening up the metal table, clearly. And I found the new regulator that I bought a year ago for the TIG welder, and I decided to put it on. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and take this because I'm extremely out of practice. Like, don't remember the last time I plugged in this machine. So let's hope it works. I'd like to get back in the swing of things because I think it would be super helpful when we do the mercury, because there's gonna be a lot of custom sheet metal work, and I think that's where the TIG welding really shines. Stuff like this, Toys R Us 110 MIG welder all day long will take care of this job. If I boogered up, it doesn't matter, it's a Crossmember. You know, won't be posting pictures on the ham. All right, one of the reasons I never TIG is, well, TIG really requires exceptionally clean metal. No oil, no scale, no rust, no paint, and the crap I work on rarely meets that parameter. Like I said, I'm out of practice, so I set everything up via a TIG calculator. So if you don't know what that is, download the Miller app, and you basically put in what kind of metal you're working on, the thickness, the type of weld you're doing, and it will spit out some general parameters: tungsten size, cup size, amperage, gas flow. See how this goes. It's been a minute. I still got it. If you're wondering why I am not welding on the metal table and rather on this cardboard template, well, because it doesn't really matter. I know some people will be like, just ground to the table, blah, 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 blah. Always ground to your work whenever you can. Welder's humming, and in a moment of cleverness, I just stacked these on top of each other and clamped them together. At least they'll be symmetrical. We'll just mirror it when we flip it back over. Oh, and for those of you guys out there that watch Bad Chad and use the coat hanger for this, just go to the welding shop and buy rod. They sell all sorts of diameters. Using this with a MIG is not a bad idea. Using a coat hanger, it's not a great idea. You can do better. You can do better. So what we've done here is created a straight edge from our flange to our flange. We have measured down our correct distance. In our case, it's 1.25 inches. I went 1/8 over that, so I have some shimming room. That number should mean 0 to you, outside of knowing how we got it when we measured this thing. The reason I say that is it would mean that even if you were running the exact same setup, small block, 4-speed, Model A frame, all that stuff, your motor mounts would have to be exactly in the same place mine are, up and down and all of that stuff. And there's plenty of flexibility in there. So get your own numbers, blah, 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 blah. It'll be fine. We now have a straight top edge clamped to our straight bottom edge with, you know, stacks of spacers in there. We'll weld this up, and at least, at the very least, you know, our crossmember should be parallel to our frame, even with all of these angly things. All right, we got a thing. Oh, hey everybody, how's it going out there in TV land? This is what I'm choosing to do on a Saturday. I don't even know how to get myself in here enough. Sure. Something doesn't seem right though. We're about to find out what's not right. Pooh. I feel like we mismathed somewhere. Oh, for crying out loud. All right. The good news here is our crossmember fits in our frame basically like we expected it to. My concern though is this right here. Either I've just jacked this up way too much because I was feeling excited about it, or we mathed incorrectly, which it's always kind of amusing when you math real bad after all that work. Drawing little pictures, using cardboard, all that stuff. So the only thing to do at this point is let her down and see if she'll rest on this crossmember and check the angle again. Here we go, coming down. Coming down. All right, that's odd. It's not a good start, not a good sign, not a good sign at all. The reason I say it's not a good sign is I feel like our angle of the dangle was too low, even on this strap. And we have that many to go. It's roughly a 1/4 inch. Well, let's go check, see where we are. We're at about 4.5. So we're 1.5 degrees off, which is not nearly as bad as I thought we were. So I'm gonna go ahead and use the jackification. I guess we'll jack it back up until it's right. How are we doing here? Everybody pay attention. That's in the neighborhood of it. It's a lot. Huh. Survey says, well, it's not right. 1 inch and 1/8. Either I used my tape measure trick and tricked myself in the process, or simply did kindergarten level arithmetic incorrectly. But either way, we're 1 inch off. There's several ways to deal with that. The one that makes the most sense to me is to shim up 1 inch. If I cut 1 inch out of here, which would be relatively easy to do, and just weld the plate back on, well, then I'm just kind of stuck there. But if I take a nug of this heavy gauge steel, this many big, drill 2 more holes in it, well, then we're styling right where I thought we would be. So we're gonna do that plan. Plan 2B. Mere moments later, we got ourselves a doohickey with 2 holes in it. Did the holes line up? Did we get it right? How'd we do? I'm sure it's great. I'm sure it's perfect. It's holding a lot of weight. It's a cheap ratchet strap. All right, let's get this thing on a crossmember. First things first, got some shorty bolts, more better. This thing is not, oh, it is tapped all the way through. That's interesting. Didn't, okay. Then we gotta get this crossmember centered, and we gotta drill some holes in the frame, bolt that all in, then we'll lower it back down, shim the transmission till it's where we need it to be based on the engine's angle of the dangle, and then fellers, we got a crossmember. That's actually a really big deal considering this ratchet strap's been doing the work. And bolted the crossmember to the mount so that we kind of know the plane of the transmission, roughly, right? Even if it's not centered this way, we kind of know where it is this way. So now I'm just measuring off a point I can match on both sides. So I've got 16 and quarter from this cross member to this cross member. 16 and a quarter both ways. So I'm gonna mark this line right here and this line right here, and I know that's where I want the thingy. I'm saying I'm gonna mark it because I don't have a freaking marker. So now we can unbolt it, center it right to left, staying in line with our marks, and in theory, we are going to be in the right place. A couple taps with the mini persuader, we ought to be all right. That is loud though. Okay, it's 1,000 degrees and I'm covered in hot metal shavings. They stick to you and try to brush them off, they just go in. Drill's got hot enough that the guy was using a welding glove. That's normal, I think, sure. It's basically turned into an easy bake oven in here, which creates a desire to hurry to get the hell out of here for a minute, which creates propensity for mistakes. It's kind of going. No, it's not. It's crooked as hell. Son of a gun! You're seeing it. I got a 2x6 and a bottle jack from the ancient times. Is this gonna work? Probably not. We're gonna try it anyway. Sure. What do you think the yield strength on a 2x6 on flat is? One transmission unit? Good news is it worked. Bad news is I lost my thing. It's good, put your fingers in there. It's real smart. Found some hardware, found my thingamadoodle. Hardware's too many longs, but we'll figure that out. And that's not lining up. Well, maybe we gotta do this. Oh, there we go. That's what's gotta happen. Guess we'll lower this down and see what happens. Well, we're lined up. I don't want to go too nuts with it and screw up this mount, which I feel like I'm in danger of doing. I feel like our crossmember is headed down with the frame because we built it square, which makes sense, but our transmission's leaning back the other way, so I don't want to dig into this mount too much. Let's pull this stuff out of here, go check the angle of our dangle, and then this is just a matter of creating the, you know, the right angle. Not a right angle, not like a 90-degree angle, but the correct angle. Gang, we are between 3 and 4 degrees. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. I don't love this, but I could live with it. But considering the way that things are, I am indeed inclined at this point to cut out our bottom piece, scooch it up just a fuzz, you know, and change the angle so that this is sitting, this angle and this angle are just completely opposite of each other. I didn't really think about that. This feels like a job for my buddy the Sawzall. I don't want to, but we're gonna. Well, if we're doing things that I don't want to do, we may as well do them right. So I'm gonna go ahead and take 1 inch out of these because that's where I originally screwed this up, and I got my angle, my dangle finder. And if I got this thing going 3 degrees this way and the transmission going 3 degrees that way, so if I cut a 6-degree angle into this, then, and lose 1 inch, in theory, we'll be mo better. Guess that's what we're gonna do, even though I don't want to. Got this tab off, not that one. We've hit that point in super fun Saturday hot rod time where I got to walk away. I am guaranteed to screw something up because it's hot and I'm frustrated at this point. But in addition, I'm more likely than not to also injure myself in the process. So we're gonna go do anything else for a little while. We'll see you in a moment. Gang, here we are, we're back. I took a little break so as to not lose my mind, and we're preparing to take a Sawzall the thing we had just so diligently created incorrectly. I was thinking to myself, why the hell didn't I just tack it? I always just tack it. Every episode, I'm like a broken record. I say, and that's why we just tack that. Because I'm always cutting apart stuff that I either totally bone like this or just didn't work out once new information is provided. Then I realized, oh yeah, because I thought it would be fun to do some TIG welding this morning. Good gracious, can't catch a break. So today, on how to fix your mistakes with Ryan, what I've done is I've cut off our tabs. I'm going to grind those smooth. Then I'm going to measure up from this joint on both sides, cut them off evenly, straight across 90 degrees, because if I put my angle correction here, it's going to rock it into a different position, which means my holes won't line up, which means nothing is going to go well. I'm going to start there. We'll put it back in, clamp it, and we'll tack weld it in place because I want the holes to line up. That is relatively important to me considering, well, if they don't, I gotta drill new holes, which likely means filling old holes. And with the alignment, it generally worked out pretty well. So, we'll 86 an inch, and then we're gonna have to cut this bottom piece off and rack it to get our angle. I feel like that's the best solution. It's gonna be great. So it's been 30 minutes. We've got that much of a cut so far. I put the blade back on the bandsaw 4 times. Time to just grab some cutting wheels and do it the way that it always works. I feel like Charlie Brown on this hot rod. That kid loves baseball, right? Every time he goes out to the mound, he's gonna try, he's gonna give it hell, and he gets rocked. Never won a game in his life, never will, and yet he goes out every single day. See the parallels, fellas? At least I'm in good company, right? Charlie Brown's pretty great. I was smart enough to label my tabs and label this majigger so that I know which side is which. I go to bed at night searching the internet for more ones of these to buy. What's wrong with us? What is my helmet hitting? Hello? All right, we gotta change the angle of the dangle, and doing this in the car really does take some precision cutting equipment. Also, every leaf blower in the neighborhood is going right now. It's like a redneck pipe organ. So I've cut all the welds except a tack here and a tack here. Now we're gonna do some karate and bend it up. I just did it about. All right, I don't know if you guys can see that past all the leaf blowing sounds, but we're about right. So I'm gonna nail some tack welds all around this thing, and that should hold it straight. I think I gotta slot these a little bit. It's not a huge surprise to me, but I was kind of ignoring the fact that taking an inch out was going to adjust exactly where that fell based on all, and I think we're pretty well centered. So couple of tacks, and then we'll waller it out. To quote the great Ray Magliazzi, Sonia Henny's tutu. What a day. Always works out. The crappiest version's the one that actually works. The good looking versions, nah. Well, for a while there we were on the path to build something kinda nice, and it didn't work, and so now we've got booger welded trash that does. The jack's got no weight on it, the transmission is sitting on it, the angle is correct. We do have to slot the holes, but I can either slot the frame mounts or I can slot the spot where the cross member actually meets the rubber part. It's got to move back to somewhere around 3/16, something like that. So not a huge problem, but something that I want to do diligently, which I don't have any diligently left, fellas. Not an ounce of it. We're in the ballpark. I'm back. All right. It's like the end of a horror movie when the guy comes back for just one more like scare. I can't let it go. I just can't let it go. Can't let it go. I got my butt kicked way too hard to stop here. Whether it's the right decision or not, mentally, I have just got to make this less crappy. So we're gonna slot the holes, make it fit, finish weld it, grind it, and I might even paint it because we're on day 3 of this and I gotta have more to show for it than that. All right, we're test fit. We've got some bolts in it. If you guys know a good way to slot holes, make a shape like this, let me know. If you don't have a mill, then you end up just beating the snout out of it with drill bits and just, files and all this other stuff. It's a huge pain. I'd love to have a mill, but that's thousands of dollars in square footage I don't have, and I wouldn't use it that often, but slotted holes, man, they're just, you gotta have them, but they're a pain. So this fits. We're good. We're gonna need some heavy gauge washers and stuff like that. No big deal. I'm gonna pull it out. We're gonna finish weld it. We're gonna paint it. I gotta clean up how boogered up it looks because, well, I don't mind boogered up, really. I do. It's the principle of the thing, gang. It started with so much promise yesterday morning, right around this time. Everything was all neat and tidy. And now it just looks like trash. But we can weld it and we can grind it. It's just time and effort. And for some reason, I'm gonna do it. Oh, come. Weird thing. Guys, I seriously think I stripped this mount somehow. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. It's kind of catching, kind of not. You know what that means? Everything comes apart. Charlie Brown, at your service. Seems okay. Doesn't mean it is. Yeah, if you guys are wondering, it's been another half hour. I'm still right here. I don't understand, gang. Fighting me every step. I have done something to the hot rod gods and I don't know what it was, but I got to find out how to make a sacrifice or whatever because so generally speaking, I kind of believe that you're gonna kind of find what you're looking for out in the world, right? If you get out of bed and you're angry and you're looking for a fight, well, you're gonna find a fight. You're gonna find somebody to get in an argument with or someone will tick you off. If you go out in the world thinking, you go out in the world looking for positivity, maybe with a little bit of empathy, if somebody's a jerk to you, you kind of can go, huh, maybe they're just having a bad day, instead of letting it get under your skin like, if you were looking for a fight, because then you'd just be all mad at them for it. Well, I got up this morning thinking, all right, I was done with this project last night. I needed to move on. I was frustrated, I was tired. I tried real hard, I screwed it all up, and then I just needed to admit defeat. And I thought, well, you know what? It's Sunday morning. Let's get out there. We can pick up where we left off. We can make it more better. thinking that positive energy was gonna, you know what I mean? Did the thing, did the welding, did the grinding, did the painting, put it in, and now it's bolts. It's bolts. It's bolts. Speaking of bolts, I also have a terrible habit of mocking things up with the hardware that's nearest to me. So things don't end up with lock washers on them that need them, or nylocks, or bolts not the right length, or whatever. And here we are with brand new hardware with the lock washers, because I want to be able to leave this in here for quite some time. And yet, even that's not bringing me good juju. I think I need to take up relaxing as a hobby, maybe. Gang, it's a thing. It's a thing. But it is a hard fought 16 hours worth of thing. And I still am questioning this bolt. It's just not something. So I guess I'll order a new mount just in case. Which kind of breaks my heart because it means this project still isn't done. This little piece right here still isn't done. I mean, changing a transmission mount, it's a couple bolts. It's not a big deal, right? Right? Except when it is. I'm on hold with O'Reilly right now, trying to order another mount. Just defeated, like Class A burned out. The whole point of this endeavor, well, was to move the car forward, but I wanted to try out that clutch pedal. And I'll tell you what, right now, the last thing I want to do is get in there and try the clutch pedal. Because if it doesn't work, well, I just don't know if I could bear it. Yeah, man, I just need to order a part. I stewed just long enough to regain a small capacity for more disappointment. So, let's, and that's all the movement we got. It seems to be doing the thing. I guess we gotta adjust this. Yes, we gotta adjust it. Yeah. All right, let's just tinker. Gang, while dealing with my mental state of finding a minor setback to be a soul-crushing defeat, just because that's where I am on this car, I decided I would just try out the clutch. And I messed around with the linkage a little bit, but the short version is, it is indeed working. I'm able to pull the pedal down. I can see the pressure plate moving. I can see the clutch disc opening. I think I have all of the movement I need. I'm pretty sure that I do, but if I don't, I still have plenty of adjustment. I also have another spot on the pedal where I can change the pedal ratio to get a fuzz more movement if I need it. Okay, we got a functioning clutch and brake pedal. That's all spanned multiple episodes, so thanks for watching. If you caught them all, I couldn't leave the episode on a sour note. I couldn't leave my Sunday afternoon on a sour note. I still have some return spring stuff to deal with. The mount on the transmission, we'll get another one next time we're at the parts store. I didn't have one today. That's just, I'm gonna let that go. We need to get in there anyway. We'll have to do some final shimming when we get the intake and everything on, make sure it's just the way we want it. And yeah, we're gonna take the little victory of the last 3 episodes, basically, of mounting the pedal assembly, building the Crossmember, and whatever we did before that. Pedals, maybe? I don't know. It's all been right here for a long time, but that's just how it's been. Everything I've been hoping would be a 1-day project has turned into like a 2+ day project, but I guess that's just life. Good luck on your projects out there. We'll see you next time on Between the Sharks. We are going to keep plugging away on this And we have so many projects I'm just dying to get to. I'm sick of looking at this thing being dead in the yard. It deserves better. This thing is parked up just because of the generator. So we need to spend just a day to sort all that out. I say just a day. Everything takes 2 around here, apparently. And kind of the next blank canvas. I mean, you watch enough Bellows Customs, you're gonna want to get into a 30s or 40s full custom. And so that's, you know, I've been doing that, so I want to. So good luck on your projects out there. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing. We will see you next time on Between the Sharks.